Okay, let's make prostrations together. Please take your seats. Okay, good evening, everyone. Every one of you. Can you hear me? Those at the back? Can you hear me? As always, setting a proper motivation and turning to page 1, page 1 of the textbook. Visualize all Buddhist bodhisattvas, and particularly Buddha Shakyamuni, Nagarjuna, and the author of the text, Aryadeva, in front of you, and all your family members, your two kind parents, all your family members, and all the other sentient beings around you. And imagine that you are leading this the group to receive teaching from our venerable teacher, Venerable Geshe Yeshe Thabkhe, and then the purpose of this practice is to awaken from the sleep of ignorance. This ignorance responsible for creating all the fears of samsara, all miseries. And to awaken from this sleep, we need to realize the ultimate reality, which is emptiness. So for that purpose, and also the purpose to share this experience of this awakening with all the dear sentient beings. And imagine that all sentient beings that are joining you in this prayer and the class, and you are leading this prayer group. With that in mind, let's recite from page 1. And used by great compassion, you taught the immaculate Dharma, you discovered perverted views, you the Buddha, Lama, and the ORIGINATION. And used by great compassion, you taught the immaculate Dharma, you discovered perverted views, you the Buddha, Lama, and the ORIGINATIon. And used by great compassion, you taught the immaculate Dharma, you discovered perverted views, you the Buddha, Lama, and the ORIGINATIon. Independent origination, there is no ceasing or rising, no annihilation, no permanence, no coming, no going, no separateness and no sameness. I prostrate to the consummate Buddha, supreme among all teachers, about who taught this peace, which is prayer of adoration. I prostrate to the mother of the Buddhas and of the hearers and Bodhisattvas, who through the knowledge of all these hearers, the complete peace. All those having migrated to achieve the ends of the world. The possessions of nations, the subduers set forth the varieties having all things. And the mantra. Om Ye Dharma Hetu Prabhava Hetu Desham Tathagato Yata Kesham Chalo Nirodha Evam Mati Mahashamana Swaha. Om Ye Dharma Hetu Prabhava Tunde Shandala Gato Yavatat Deshan Chayo Nirodha Evam Vadi Mahashamana Eswa Om Ye Lama Hetu Prabhava Tunde Shandala Gato Yavatat Deshan Chayo Nirodha Evam Vadi Mahashamana Yeswa. The meaning of the mantra: all phenomena arise as causes. The causes are taught by the Dharma. Within the causes is well is taught by the great seal. As a refuge in Tibetan. Sanye Shonan Soge Shonan Na Chansho Bado Tane Yapsu Che Bage Jitsu Kibe Sonan Ke Chola Sanche Sange Sho Sanye Shonan Soge Shonan Na Chansho Bado Tane Yapsu Che Bage Jitsu Kibe Sonan Ke Chola Sanche Sange Sho Sanye Chonan Soge Chonan Na Chansho Bado Tane Yapsu Che Bage Jitsu Kibe Sonan Ke Chola Sanche Sange Sho. I go for refuge until I am enlightened through the Buddha and Lama and Sangha. I make emulation to the practice of giving and so forth, and become a Buddha with all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened through the Buddha and Lama and Sangha. I make emulation to the practice of giving and so forth, and become a Buddha with all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened through the Buddha and Lama and Sangha. I make emulation to the practice of giving and so forth, and become a Buddha with all sentient beings. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in Buddha's presence, I generate the heart full of awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. Okay, now let's turn to the Heart Sutra mantra, which is on page 11. Yatha Om Gade Gade Aragade Arasangade Buddhi Swaha 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 Om Gade Gade Aragade Arasangade Buddhi Swaha. Page 12. By the teachings of the true supreme truths possessing the qualified may it already be transformed, may it be dispelled, may it be non-existent, may it be pacified, may all negative forces opposed to Dharma be completely pacified, may the host of 80,000 obstacles be pacified, may we be separated from problems and harmful conditions of Dharma, may all world jobs be according to the Lama, may all auspiciousness and perfect happiness be created in this Dharma. Okay, so from yesterday, what the teaching given by Venerable Geshe Thabkhe yesterday, that is more the overview of the first four chapters, which we are supposed to be covering, and we are expecting to cover the first four chapters today, yesterday, and today, and tomorrow. The fifth chapter, the Bodhisattva's deeds, and the wisdom of emptiness, to see everything as dreamlike, and how to awaken, how we are to awaken ourselves from this degree of ignorance. This is what is to be covered tomorrow. But then, since we have just one and a half hours today, for the whole chapter, 4 chapters to be covered. So our Venerable Geshe Thabkhe is wondering if we could finish all these, but then say whatever number of distances we will finish, we'll finish that. And then the next time when Venerable Geshe Thabkhe comes back from his abroad visits, then we can continue with this. This is what he advised us before this, before coming here. Okay. The word of salutation said by the Venerable Geshe Thabkhe is to the Buddha, for him having seen the reality as it is, and then having experienced the reality, and then having gone through the actual path of purifying himself and experiencing the perfect state of happiness for himself, being able to share this with all sentient beings. So that all happened initially motivated by great compassion, and then having been through the path to see the reality. So to this teacher, the great teacher, Holiness, I bring restoration. And then as to the motivation with which to receive the teachings, is the motivation to be motivation imbued with the two qualities, the quality of love, unconditional love, and the quality of knowledge, the knowledge of the ultimate reality. So with which imbued with two qualities, and with the aspiration to perfect in these two qualities, which is nothing but other than the become Buddha. So if that is what, if that is your motivation here to receive this, for one to perfect these two qualities and to become a Buddha for the all sentient beings, by following this, the study and the reflection and the meditation of this teaching, then all the virtues that you accumulate is going to be inexhaustible. It'll be there, and it'll keep multiplying, and this will be there with you till you become enlightened. So if you turn to the chapter 1, which is on the impermanence, page 44. First stanza reads, "If those whose Lord is death himself," meaning that one is, we are prone to death, we are prone to dying. The ruler of the three worlds, without a master, sleeps soundly like true vanquisher. So although we are in the nature of impermanence, in the nature of being stricken with the impermanence of death, but then not knowing that, then we sleep soundly, we simply stay in a very the indulgent way, then what could be more appropriate? So this stanza is to advise us how to always be vigilant of the impermanence of the death, be aware that anytime this death can strike us, and if possible, by being aware of this death, then see if there is a way and manner by which to free yourself altogether from the death, which means that you don't have to go through the death anymore in the future. One, and then this is number one, and then number two, even if it may not be possible right there, this very in such short time, but then at least while I'm still alive, I will be aware of this death, and then being aware of the next lives. Then what determines the next lives is what kind of the actions that one engages in, and the positive actions or karmas will determine a favorable birth next time, and the negative actions will determine very undesirable and miserable next lives. So knowing that, and then in this life, because of the awareness of the impermanence of death, one engages in all virtues and shunning all the negativities, negative karmas. Thereby, you gain such a confidence at the time of death, although you may not be free from death altogether in the next life, but then you are sure, we are confident that next life I will not take birth in the unfavorable states, rather I will have a favorable birth. So these two are the things that we should be aware of, that we should try to gain conviction in through reflection on the impermanence of death. So here, when it is mentioned, the lot of death. The lot of death here is where, without any choice of yours, that you take birth, and then inevitably your birth is being severed. So that involuntary loss of the birth as of your life is known as the lot of death. And then samsara. What does it mean by samsara? Samsara is where one involuntarily engages in taking birth and involuntarily losing your life. So this involuntarily taking birth and losing life, it happens endlessly. So this is known as the wheel of life, the cyclic wheel, the cyclic of the life, or the samsara.
ni loje loje na mandi barese saso che barese ko da ngi ne chi ni lo na dele maru she chi yose mo dele tene maru ba ta lemba tene su yeri o mare su.
So here, with the stanza, the first stanza, if those whose Lord is death himself. So here for us, what governs us? What governs us is the Lord of death. So our death is like the Lord which governs, which governs us. And then this describing this death as what this Lord of death is like, ruler of the three worlds. This Lord of death is what governs not only you, but governs the entire three worlds. Three worlds referring to the desire realm, form realm, and formless realm, or those under the ground and on the ground and in the sky. So this Lord of death, the death is what pervades all three realms. And without a master, this death does not require any other master to control them. This death is the final master, is the final master in the sense that this is something so inevitable, which is which drives all of us to end the life and to connect them to the next lives. So while what governs us is this Lord of death, but then it is also like say the Buddhas and the Arahats. The Buddhas and Arahats, they are fearless of the death because they've already transcended the drawbacks, transcended the fears of death. And then ordinary people like us, we may act as though like how the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, they are fearless of the death, and then you also remain fearless of the death, not knowing how the death is what governs us. And then in that stage, because that you feel ignorantly, not feeling the fear of the death, and then you remain soundly sleep soundly, like true vanquishers. True vanquishers here referring to the Buddhas and the Arahats. Like them, you also think that you are not afraid of the death, and then you just lead your life so easily, like taking a sound sleep and so forth. So if you do like this is the greatest deception. There's nothing which is more improper than this behavior. So it is advising us as to how not to be misled by our own wrong thinkings. Instead, be aware of the importance of death and act accordingly, so that you are prepared for the next lives. So in all each of these stanzas, if you read the commentaries, the Acharya commentary, we see that there are some anecdotes, fables related to each of these stanzas. And the anecdote associated with the first stanza is that there was a king and a minister, and two of them, between two of them, there was one man who was creating division between the two and slandering the two. And in which case, the minister, it is the minister who's going to be on the weak side. So the minister, knowing that there is another person who is in between the king and himself, that the person can create, and the king may not be in favor of the minister, and the minister might be even killed, executed by the king. Under such situation, the minister should be maintaining such a vigilance, such alertness in for his life. So to make sure that you are not under the sway of the king's persecution. Likewise, in this point, the point narrated here in stanza 1, the death is like the king, and you are like the person who is prone to die. So here with this alertness, since that I'm being under the influence of the dead, so I should make it a point that if possible, that I be freed of the influence, freed of the lot of death altogether by getting freedom from samsara altogether. One, if not, at least even though I may be under the trap of the death, but in the next life, that I may not undertake the bad experience of the unfavorable states.
Oh, did you know? Social language comes from the show on you changing Chida, you already. In a Tandana, Sabarma, over Tangueva, okay, to Chevalia, Chinachomare, and Nandimazulo Henry or Paso, and then somebody shown Doji in there. So it's Indian, now the Chevomares and the Temaya, and the Mares, Geshe Yeshe, anybody, Carsico, oh, dear. Somebody hearing go some somebody hearing it some and a person Mijiba said. Chua Jaji Geshe. She won't do a mountain, Chua Jama Donna, somebody Jama Mindan. The Chua Jaji Geshe, Kiwa Horandi, Kids had you come at the give to the Chile Dondalia, given a shit. She won't do a mountain. 이 바르들이야 그나 춤 포벌이 지금이지 아니 버루가 세서들 필요하네 시 이게 저기서 대바다 나와다 지금 맞아야 돼 트마트 텐데션 봐 제가 나올라서 뭐 근데 나오면 봐 녀르 봐 피니 있어라 샤만도에만 주제 될라서 어때리야네 치와 자와 답나지 선바 자입니다
So the analogy given here is again an anecdote. A king, if the king decreed that you should meet the king on this date. And if you're very far away from the king, then you will not miss even a moment, single moment. Every moment that you see, you use it to get closer to the king. Otherwise, you may be persecuted to death and so forth by the king. So, which means that while you are still away from the king is like the Lord of Death, and while you are still away from the king, but then because of the fear of the punishment, penalty by the king, you make it a point that you don't stray yourself, even for a moment, enjoying yourself. Rather, you take every moment to get closer towards the king, so that you are not late, that you don't receive the penalty from the king. So that way, the king is more like the Lord of Death, and then you not missing even a single moment to get closer towards the king. Is like every moment that you live, you are by no means you are getting away from the death. You are being closer towards the death every moment that you live. So being alive should not be seen as the ways and means to justify yourself that, okay, I have still many more years to live. So I'm still many more years away from death. So it should not be taken to see yourself in that direction. Rather, it should be seen as every moment I'm closer to his death. So the analogy given is that, say, there's the camel as the ride, and one lady is there, and the lady is to ride a camel and to go to the particular destination, and then the lady, because of being in a great urgency, just happened to go towards that camel side, and then accidentally happened to ride the camel, and the camel also becoming a little nervous, and then got up and started moving. So then this lady does not have any control, is wherever the camel takes, then she goes. So likewise, the moment we are born, we have no control over ourselves. It is our death which is going to take us closer, or which is going to determine the next moments. So it is like this, that every moment we are being closer. No event can hold you back from getting closer to his death. Stanza 3. Stanza 3 is is a response to the idea that many of the people, many of us, we the ordinary people have. Say, we the ordinary people have the feeling that, say, if you're like in your 20s or 30s, you may think, oh, as a human being, the lifespan is 100 years. So I'm just 20 years now. I've still another 80 years to live. So why should I be afraid of death? So I've another 80 years to live. And should I have to prepare something for my next life? Still I have time. Still have time. So that may be, say age 40 or 50, then I will start Dharma practice. So these are all illusion. These are all self-deception. So it says that, stanza 3, you see the past as brave. Say you are in your 20, the 20 years already elapsed, you see that as so short. And then yet see the future as different from being short and being brave, the future as so long. You see the future, oh, I have another 70 years to live, 40 years to live, and so forth. To think both equal or unequal, seeing the past and the future as equal duration. Say if you're in your 50s, you see, okay, 50 years lapse. I'm still another 50 years. So equal, past and future is equal. And then otherwise the younger ones would say, well, I'm just 20 years old now. I'm just 30 years old now. I've another 70 years to live. I've another 80 years to live. So you see the past as very short and the future is very long, which is unequal. The duration of the past and the future is unequal. It's clearly like a cry of fear. Cry of fear. So you may think that, okay, why should I be afraid of death? I have so many years to live. So the past has been so short, or maximum it is just equal to what what I have still. I have more. So this, what we express as fearless, is actually a sign of fear. It is because of the fear that you are saying this. Say, for example, if you are to go into a forest inhabited by burglars and thieves, then you pretend as though like you are very courageous, and then you sing songs and you shout to pretend as though like you are not afraid of the burglars here. In actuality, the fact that you are doing that is an indication that you are afraid of that. And likewise, why you are saying that, okay, so I still have many more years to live. You are saying this because that you are being bothered by the death. It's the sign of a cry. Sign of cry of those people, sign of a shout of those people who are afraid of the burglars, and then pretending so like they are not afraid, and then making they are shouting, they cry, they're more rather than crying, it's more like they're shouting.
今天被现代去等的这些事，我迷茫不起，应该的上去中国去上去，第七个多，第说的是，那小个吃上就当做不可以怎么当，小个嘛说是没开始年年不上，那没开始点过来，你中国大过地方去，我都把开始做不当些多，就是地方个吃去也不正开始了，你看当地也是嘛，我这工作做起，说是。 做不大是搞外面，就现在都没丢这些了。这个还是个可，一年送在咱们人上，说是新下的。你做过人本那么工作吃的，看这送过来的呢，你现在的是，一年送的说是的嘛，里面都年是个到底年些，说是新灭亡的，那他们现在在有上去，就是什么的这个从这个事情。
So another example, the analogy given here, the more like an anecdote, is that the thought that, oh, I have still many more years to live, or I have still some years to live. So this is simply the illusion that one has, simply because of the attachment and the inclination, affinity, very strong affinity to the self. The analogy given is, say there are some visitors or some strangers who happen to pass by one place, and they stay there for, say, like one day, and then they all relieve themselves, right? Relieve themselves. You understand it? Okay. They in the open area. Then then the owner of the place the next morning came and saw that it's just full of all these things, dirty things. Then said that among the visitors, some already left, and others were there. Then the owner of the place said that, okay, you must make a point that this place is clean, so you just clean this place. And all the people who are left behind, what they did is that they went to pick up that thing, that part which was their share. Picked up that, cleaned that up, thinking that, okay, this is mine, that's fine. Others I cannot even dare to touch. It's very unclean. So in actuality, they're all just equally unclean. They're all equally very dirty. But then simply because of your affinity that this is mine, it gives us a false illusion that mine one is okay. Others are very dirty. So this is a false illusion. There's no basis, there's no sound basis for one to see yours one as okay and the others one as something not to be touched. So this is exactly what is happening here. When you think that, oh, I have still many more years to live, it's simply because of the false illusion and the unwise affinity to the sense of the self. And stanza 4 is a response to another mistaken idea. So some people, we may as well think that, okay, that's understandable. I'm just maybe 20 years, and usually, generally speaking, or maybe for another, I might have another 60 or 80 years. But then, very young people can die early. So in my case as well, I may die early. But then why should I be worried about that? This is not something confined to me. It happens to everybody. It happens to everybody. So why should I be afraid of that? So this is actually not, again, a wise statement, because simply because with the dead, and if you are to take birth in the hell realm, and seeing that so many people, they also go to hell realm, and then you feel relieved. You feel relieved. It doesn't mean that that the fact that there are so many people who are going to hell realm along with you does not reduce your pain of being there in hell realm. The pain is the same. So therefore, why should you feel comfortable at seeing that it's not just you who's going to hell realm, there are so many others. So that is again a very false, very the mistaken way of thinking. And stanza 4 reads, since death is common to others too, it's not just to me, it happens to everyone. So why should I mourn? Why should I feel regretful or feel afraid of, as though like the death is simply confined to me? Since death is common to others too, you have no fear of it. This is your perception. Does jealousy cause suffering when only one is harmed? So same, when you think that the death is happening only to me, and then others are happy, others they don't have to go through death, then it is the jealousy coming in you. And then you feel afraid of your death. And then when you see that there are so many others who are also dying, everyone is dying, then your fear dissolves, which means that this fear is actually created by the jealousy over seeing others not dying. So it says that, does jealousy cause suffering when only one is harmed? Only when you see that you are harmed and others are not harmed, you are dying and others are not dying, then you feel the pain. And whereas if you see all others equally being harmed as you are, then your suffering is not there, which means that this is jealousy creeping in. Say, if you are subject to one king, and that king imposes so much of tax and heavy tax on you, and then all others are exempted from paying the tax, then you feel that, oh, you feel horrible. And whereas if the king imposes the same amount of the tax on all others, then you feel relieved. Okay, it's not just to me, but to everyone. So this is purely a sense of jealousy. When you're alone, the tax is incurred on you, and then others exempted, then you feel pain because of the jealousy towards others. So the next point is again stanza 5 is in response to again another distorted thinking. The distorted thinking is that death happens because of sickness and because of aging, and there's always some treatments. There's always some remedies to sickness and aging. For sickness, we can take medicines, we can go to the doctors, hospitals, and so forth. And for the aging, for becoming aged, we can resort to some multivitamins, and we can resort to some the practices and so forth. Like the consecrated by resorting to some consecrated pills and so forth, so to avoid the aging. So because that these things can happen, sickness, which is what can potentially create death in us, and these can be remedied. So why should I be afraid of the death? So this could be another reason as to why we try not to be afraid of the death. Stanza 5 reads, "Sickness can be cured and aging treated. Therefore, you do not fear them. Yet," so these two are the distorted thinking pertaining to the belief that why should I be afraid of death? And then the response is, "Yet there is no cure for the last ordeal. Last ordeal is death. No matter how much you treat your illness or how much you treat your aging, the final destination, which is death, is what is bound to happen to each one of us. Thus, obviously, you fear it." So the analogy given in relation to this, to make this point very vibrant and convincing, is like a king who is to impose a penalty on you. And then if the king the king assign someone else to impose this penalty on you, then you can somehow bribe that person, and then you can how deceive the person, so that we can evade the penalty. But then, should the king himself comes to you with all his army to you, then there is no way by which you can evade this problem. Likewise, the king coming with his army is like the Lord of Death coming to us, and then treating the sickness and just avoiding the aging a little bit here and there is like deceiving the middleman. Another example given here is that, say you are the washerman, you call it washerman, the person who does the laundry for others, washerman. Toby. Yeah. Okay, so we say you're a washerman or a Toby, and then if the ordinary person leaves some laundry with you for you to do the laundry for that person, and then if in the process, if some of the clothes they are damaged, then you can somehow talk nicely to the person, confess, and the person will also understand it, and then you'll be relieved. And then if that happens in relation to the laundry of the king, then it is much more severe. Even be it the king, but if you're able to confess it in a nice way, if the king can be convinced, okay, he can understand the situation. But a lot of that is something very different, where that is something which you cannot reconcile, and you cannot, you can reconcile at all. It will eventually strike us. Then again, some people might think that death is inevitable, death is unavoidable, but at the same time, we never know when it befalls on you. That it is not guaranteed that it will befall on me tomorrow. So since that it is uncertain, so why should we be afraid of it? So we are not sure, and no one can tell me that it will happen tomorrow or today. So because that it is absolutely uncertain, so I can be I can stay happily. So if this is the position, then the stanza 6, like cattle intended for slaughter, death is common to all. Say the cattle, even the cattle know when they see that the other animal is being killed by the butcher, then the other animals, they also sense that now it is my turn. So if even the animals know that so well, why we as human beings, we don't know? When we see the death of someone else, from there we should be able to infer that I'm also in that line. Like cattle intended for slaughter, death is common to all. Moreover, when you see others die, other human beings die, why do you not fear the lot of death? So, with this conviction that death is inevitable, because that it is happening to all others, so I'm no exception. I'm no exception. With this awareness, then this will help us to engage in virtuous actions and virtuous practices to prepare ourselves for the next lives.
네 수요가 제가 축구도 막 고세 통통이네 고세에 대해마도 제가 되어 말아서 저는 되게 맞아요 제가 오 서서치지 저 때문도 해서 내가 치외시 결매도 외치지 담배 쳐주는 서서치 고래서
So unlike the animals when they see the other animals being killed by the Bushen, then they have to simply remain in fear. Beyond that, they cannot do to avoid that fear. Whereas in the case of you as a human being, unlike the animals, when you see other human beings dying, then because of the fear of their death, rather than remaining in just this fear, we prepare ourselves by being very virtuous and avoiding all the negativities. If possible, to put effort to avoid the death altogether in the future. One. And if not, at least to maintain such conviction that after that I will that I'm confident that I will go to a favorable birth next time.
Nicho double best. All the soto check with a woman is somebody not young in Malaysia. Oh, Chile, Jula Miba Mebece, Tadanando, Jula Miba Mebece, Tadanando, Sanamis. Do you tend to switch over that time? I should say, Mangeba, never Mebecena, and then those degrees and the children to my Mebece. To stay in a task. The definition of the degrees and the things. Yam of Semilanis. Namship Unachida get your never shares. Namship Tuna Mangi Bese, and each Chida get your never choina. What is it for? Chutushima, Jordan, Chikoba,
So the next stanza 7, is in relation to how our natural thinking drives us to be in a slack state. Say, we think that the time for my death is uncertain. So therefore, then that thought that the death is something very uncertain. I'm not too sure as to when it will happen, and because of this uncertainty of the time of death, then we tend to have a feeling that okay, so far the death did not happen to me. So now, and this thought, without any rational thinking, you try to extrapolate this to the future, and then see as though life is so eternal, it is so permanent. So it says, stanza 7, if because the time is uncertain, you think you are eternal, one day the Lord of death will do you injury. So this is what is bound to happen, and then at that point, if you simply waste your time by thinking of the whole life as so eternal, without the death one day overwhelming you, and then in the end, when the death actually strikes you, then you'll be left with such a great regret of not having been able to do a proper practice and proper virtues.
No, deeper the literature. Come in a tomb, nobody will symbol. I just say symbol should symbol nobody really love record to Zivania, somebody course and dogs. What the machine broke the machine do? It's your idea, Kangane, Anjaco, Droga, she is. Didn't you? Give a time to get Tamari, sure, bring the show together the rest of education.
And knowledge is given, or anecdote is given, that in one place there was one devil, and this devil every day the devil simply takes away one human being from that kingdom for his food. So which means that um, you may not be taken by the devil for the last few years, and then simply because of that you cannot rationalize that you are not going to be taken by the devil anymore in the future. This is, if you do that, then this is such the baseless and unsound the rationality, because one by one everyone is going to be taken away by the devil. Likewise, the death is going to take our lives, steal our life anytime, but for sure, but for sure, not too long from now.
다시가 개발되셔. 개발되다 가지고 있으면 치워다 예배를 소리나고 이나 치워를 쉐셔야지 니 로고 내게도 stand야 시그마도 니 로고 연계도 치워를 시그마래. 그래서는 예배다 국기다 잡아다 근데 그냥 좀 달려고 내 유의想벌어서 진짜 신 선자를 보고 얘네 마시베시 냠노가 매버시 제그레스티 손다 고치워를 시고 말해 냠나 그게 미리 버리겠어요. 근데에서는 마오바에 전다시 서버 세버 마이나 마오바를 민구다 잡아다 깨달을 지용할 때한테 소소 민구다 잡아 롱쟁게 미스터바데 세니 신도한테 루탄에 텔레섬마다 이나서 서버 세버 마이나 당이 송라 당이네 남전된 거 수시마 소소 동네들이에 소소 동반을 시에서 민다 잡아다 될 때.
Then again we have another way of wrong way of thinking, that we see other people who are not afraid of death, and then for the future goals such as reward, such as fame, and so forth, and honors and so forth, what they do is that they even dare to engage themselves in war, fight with others, and even if you are injured, you tend to be very courageous. So when you see these things happening, then you might get a feeling that, oh, why should we be afraid of death? People are so daring. They're not at all. They're so courageous. Only the cowards, they will be afraid of death. So whereas look at these people who are so courageous, who dare to bear the injuries and so forth in war, but for a reward, for honors and so forth. So then stanza 8 is a response to that. If you consider future goals of reward and honor and so forth, but not your waning life, and then you disregard your life, which is moment by moment disappearing, losing this life, the longevity. Who would call intelligence such setting of yourself? You're setting this life which is momentarily disintegrating, and then you forget that your life is disintegrating, and then you think of the honors, rewards, and so forth. This is so unwise, and look for this, look for the honors and so forth. In the process, you are simply wasting this precious life, not preparing yourself for the future journey, not engaging yourself in the positive practices.
뭐 다들 배들이 일이도 내가 성배부 청주 만부체시세 우리 내가 신다를 봐서서 신자요 세질 다되는서 주 감을 진짜 맞대세 니더를 충분히 사실을 잡이네 제마들이 콜로네 가서를 때도 요구해서 신나시 근데 이것들이야 정치실이 아니고 무슨이어서 무기 중재 칼라사에 내려서 어떤 것도 굳이 좀想呢 你现在呢就习惯嘛这些那多大些你结不这个好工作那有也是你不切的把我这个去的不穷的阿妈这个去些不挣的话的那种不的他切的把了工作穷的阿妈工作当然种不的些不能中心那里种不能些这样说的是那个种法是去别讲
One anecdote is related to this stanza, that a couple had three children, and then at the time of famine, the family did not have any source of survival. And then the couple decided to sell one of the three children, sell one child. Then, in the actual process of selling selling a child, the father held the eldest child, and the mother held the youngest child. And automatically, the middle child says, "Now I'm going to be sold." So likewise, so it is by default the middle one felt that he's going to be sold, and then finally the king came and said that I'm going to buy the one that you're going to sell, and the child just voluntarily went there, knowing that by default it's him actually who the parents want to sell. Likewise, that we moment by moment, it is like say without any possibility of impeding, without any possibility of impeding, we moment by moment we go closer to the death. It's like this child by default automatically going towards the person who's going to buy the child from the parents.
Nako solo ga kubete de to. Adi concept dosena. Tatamatelia nordi tanda so ta de lembade chero. O tende na nordi tanda so ta de lembade solo shida chebe chebe do ase. Di ina so ya tanda tibele chebe de jigindo ase na samba ina se do. O di de ma rese do. O kandere se na. Tani tamar shaje de. So benjo chunju chige tanda ya Tibet House and so ya tanda Tibet House ne chede. Mahomba no so to me manguchi mo ese ora. Mahomba no so to me mo ya tamasha ne. Ene tanda de ne benjo da tinde chede tanda ya Tibet House de ande bale ora. Ani tamar sha chede. Jo chimo ne tu me no bis tamasha. Tibet chi ne che benjo chuju tanda le Tibet ka je che ora. Ne ba che ne ke nam ta Dalai Geshe Thabkhe, so licenza c'è mege, traccio un po' di machine, ma non cantare che messa, tu mi non mi chiede, ti devi mettere di tua, ti devi investire, Geshe Thabkhe. Okay. This is awesome. Oh, yes,
Okay, so far, or the early stanzas, they they explain that between the wealth and your life, your life is more precious. And the wealth, if you choose the wealth over your life, this is unwise. Then the qualm is raised that since that the emphasis is placed on the importance of the life, so why not we then engage in ill 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 actions or ill deeds, so that your life is prolonged, your life is cherished. So then it says that no, this is also not a wise choice, because the life, for the life, if you engage in the ill deeds, that the life is longer and so forth, then what you're actually doing is like you are keeping the person, or you are keeping the person as a security for you to suffer more in the future. Because by engaging in the negative actions to prolong your life and so forth, you're actually creating negative karmas, which guarantees that you're going to suffer more in the future. Stanza 9. Why do you do ill deeds, pledging yourself as security for the future suffering? Of course, like the wise here referring to the arhats, those who are already free from samsara, you must be free of attachment to yourself. So if you do that, if you pledge yourself as a security for the future suffering, and then you engage in all the wrong actions, then it is as though like you are like the arhats, who do not cherish themselves, who do not have any attachment to the self, and then they are so free. Likewise, you are doing as though like you are the Arhat. You have no attachment to the self. That you are doing all the bad things. You are pledging yourself, the self, for the security for the future miseries.
That depends the direction. There's so much said to me, me, that's what there's a mission or mission. And you do that for the Benjo Kabuche, who need somebody, Amashaje, Peshat in the yard teachers. It's a matter of the good and good to do. When they come at it, oh, that who suitcase now, showing the Lama that there's so much truth to and then, yeah, Tamate Okira, we need to suitcase as a color to so much truth. I told the Mother Nature, the Kodoya. What do they look who need to suitcase? Amade, who need to remember Hamagoshi. Give the coach with somebody else, I'm generally treated as that's also so.
So here, the anecdote related to this is there is one prostitute, and the prostitute had 2 children with meeting with one guy, and then 2 of them lived as a couple, and then finally they had great difficulty in the survival, and because of which they decided to sell the not to keep the 2 to take loan from a merchant, and then to keep the 2 children as the security with the merchant. Then after a while, the mother said that, okay, now the mother or the prostitute said that, okay, now I will take back the 2 children, and then what you take care of the 2 children, you give them a bath, then you feed them well, and then I will go there as the security. Then the man said, no. So you take care of the 2 children, and I'll go there as a security. And then the prostitute or the mother, being so wise, what she did is that then she agreed with that. She took the 2 children and then disappeared. And the man was in the hand of the merchant, and he was suffering terribly in the hands of the merchant as a servant. So this man, he voluntarily went there, and then went there for suffering, to create suffering on himself. Likewise, when we engage in all the negative actions for our own longevity and so forth, in actuality, what we are doing is that we are giving ourselves a security so that we make it a point that we suffer more in the future.
okay, Nashi, I'm in the under years, somebody, okay, I'm
So up to this, up to stanza 9, no, up to stanza 9 is the gross impermanence, and stanza 10 is the subtle impermanence. So here, the distorted thinking that we have is that we look at ourselves and then we see that we see ourselves as eternally living, in actuality, what is really happening is that we simply live in a very tiny, instantaneous moment, such a brief moment. This is the maximum we live. If you think about ourselves, the mind that the mind determines who we are. This mind is such a momentary reality, And if you look into this mind, on the momentary level, we see that it is instantaneously disintegrating, and the next moment arises, and the moment which arose already disintegrates, and the next moment arises. So this is how what life is. In actuality, our life is nothing, not as a long, eternal span of the reality, but it's such a tiny moment which we actually experience it. And whereas we have a false illusion of very lasting self from the past, present, future, everything, the self which pervades in all these three the moments of the time. So this is illusory perception. In actuality, what actually exists is just a tiny moment of the self which simply survives, which simply lives through pure dependence on the internal six elements, element of earth, fire, element of the air, and so forth, and the corresponding external six elements. By the combination of these two sets of the elements, then this self simply survives. So the moment something gets altered, there's instantly the self disappears, which is the death. So we see that for example, if you drop your piece of cloth in a river, and then next time you come, oh, I dropped my cloth there. You pinpoint to the spot where on the part of the river where you dropped the cloth. If you go there to say that my cloth, I dropped it there, then you will not find the cloth there. It's already again taken away, carried away to a very different place. So likewise, the moment you say that, oh, this I existed since 20 years ago, I existed since 30 years ago. So you get a false impression that there's this self which existed, or which spreads in all these three times, the past, present, future. This is all illusion. Because had it been the case that this self existed, the same self existed in all three times, then what you were 30 years ago or 40 years ago, when you were such a young child, that child should be right here today. But we see that that child is no more here today. This is a clear indication that what exists is just a momentary existence, and beyond that, what we see as something which pervades in all three times, this is all illusion.
So look at you, you got some good. Somebody keji mother, who keji, Joan Language, and some boats at the airport. Somebody keji me. Community, you do something to do with the air was something. Community, change as ever to do to us for keji you get some less. Somebody keji me, community, sitting with the air was on. Or tell you, she chamber, take it to us. Sitting with the air, community, they are to us and ask what. Or give my deal with this, some of that, nor a race go. I just should some lakations. You remove it, you do figure it, look how you do us. Can you feel the mechanic? Can go a chart, and cover shiny much, drometo chair, and then should look how we do us. You remove how it is a cover your. Can you let your mechanic? Give my church, you go in it. Dalai Tambata Burnas, or Keran the Chuvatene, any Joe Kafura. Tamaba Keran Tabulia, Yabujitumbu Jirmato, two Tambakachena, and the Tumba is actually.
Okay, stanza 11. Stanza 11 is in relation to our very wrong way of thinking. That we all crave to live long. We all crave to live long, and nobody likes old age. And if you want to live long, then the old age is what you are inviting. This is the reality. So live long meaning you may, oh, I want to live long for like 80 years or 90 years. So there you become so old, very haggard, physically so weak, and then we dislike to have this kind of disabilities. At the same time, we crave to live long. This is a contradiction. So it says that because and this what makes us feel like that is because although we made the reflections, doing the reflections, so far we come to get a feeling that okay, the life is very instantaneous. It's such a moment, such a brief moment in which I live as alive. The past is gone, the future is yet to come, and what I live as alive today now is just a very brief moment. Beyond that, there is no self which exists, and so am I. But then there's a continuum. Moment-wise, it is we are is sure that I live as alive for just very tiny, very brief moment. But then there's a continuum to self. Yesterday I was here, and today I'm here, and tomorrow I'll be here. So there's a continuum of the self. So it doesn't matter even if the self lives for such a brief moment, but because the continuum lasts for long, so therefore why should I not feel attached to this life? So then it says that stanza 11, it says you would like to live long, but dislike old age. Amazing. Your behavior seems right to people like yourself who are unwise.
The dependent direction. So then, Jimmy said, Linger up to the democracy. And then said to should be Cambushit, I can go shoot you. Jim Kim said, there's a Rochujuma, which you was a thing going near the relationship. Kemoki had to share as you are. I know Kondoya, certain would have to do your race. And then certain would not go care, but it and go dim and do what it. What do you mean? You need to some do I get at all. Yeah, but can go down to my head, I just give a shit there to the shit. So you would there or something. Do what they all get out is. You go on your mindset. That's the curation of your minds. Curing would get used to chimney to jump a calendar as I received.
So here the analogy or the anecdote given is in a garden. In a garden, there is a group of people, and amongst them there was one old man, and others are all very young. Right. Others were all very young, and then all the young people, they were being a little scornful and scornful and looking down upon the old person, saying that, oh, this is old age, and it is as though like old age will not fall on them. And then they see old is something undesirable. At the same time, all these young people, they love to live long. So this is a contradiction. So the advice given here is that with this awareness that the self is just a momentarily existent, just a very tiny moment which exists as the self, which is alive. And the past is gone, the future is yet to come, and what is alive is just such a brief instant. And then with this very clear awareness of this knowledge, then you should do away with the false illusion of seeing this continuum, the self existing in all three times as a very long span of continuum. So that is a false illusion, and we should not be getting attached to the false illusion of the life to be of continuing nature.
That's all got Juni Divisha. After that, they were so figure sometimes church together, and then my church, so Jebo is a put on Timbelia, and sure that young issues should be sure. What is it on the rigmarole? She mended by images, how the show mended. Any poor young age curing your water, how you have made. Social condition and can be dosed. So they put that up from the career in the chief of Acharya. Really, I can get it. So I took him and Lucy. Simply Lucy. Who's a chill and young age, but there's ocean as he made it. The current chill and young and answer. So I need Chidagi, some other curing. And it gave Chivas a government chair and other church over so what in the child with the major Chinese, you were current chill and young and who's on Namchir Chitty is it. In my generation, that you are about in there, and it's some basic worker, so much chipping. Rani Church and Maboni, Chidapona, many yourself. So, Children, she changed down. Give me Chivachi, and they don't really have much of a check. She had Chivalia, and listen getting the future Michelle, and the days and Rani Church as Chidaki in the Chowa. In Jenny one to you do, Maboni, Chidapona, maybe, maybe,
Okay, so we will complete this stanza 12, and then we'll stop here for question answers. The stanza 12 is with many of us, and for example, the parents, they worry about the death, the sickness of the children, their sons, their daughters, and so forth. But then they don't think about their own death. They don't think about planning for their own journey to the next lives. They don't engage in virtuous actions to prepare their own journey towards the next lives. They'll simply keep on worrying about their children, worrying about their son, daughter, and so forth. So this is such a misconception. This is such a folly, and this is a very unwise way of deceiving oneself and not depriving oneself of planning one's journey to the next lives. So it says that 12. Why do you grieve at death on account of your son and others? When the one that laments is a victim of his own future death. It's a say one worries about your own children, the children's death and sickness and so forth, and you don't worry about your own death and so forth. So actually, you are by no means you can evade being the victim of the death in the future lives. So how is that not reprehensible, or how is that not disgraceful? So not engaging in any virtues to prepare oneself for the future journey towards the next life, and instead simply worrying in a very mundane way, worrying about your children, worrying about this, that, and so forth. This is very unwise, and this is very disgraceful, reprehensible. So what is being taught here, all the points, particularly stanza 12, it is not to be misunderstood. It does not mean that we're not to worry about your relatives, we're not to be concerned about your children, your family, your parents, and so forth. But what is advised there is that while you're alive as a family, or as a community. Just make a point that we live in a harmonious way. We live with so much of love and affection towards each other that we don't harm each other. So if we could spend our life in this manner, this is what is in our hand. When we live as well as to live eternally. Then we, rather than living very happily, harmoniously, we tend to always fight, quarrel, and when actually death strikes, then you regret, oh, how I wish that that other person lives for another 1 year, 2 years, so that I can be so kind with the person. This is all just folly. This is what is being discouraged. What is being said here is that while you live, make it a point that you and your children, your parents, they all extract the greatest meaning out of this life together, harmoniously, loving, caring, and pursuing through the practice of Dharma to prepare yourself for the next life and so forth. And then, contrary to that, what do you live? We live in a quarrel. And then when the other person dies, then you regret. Then you, some people, they grieve, they lament. Then they simply neglect themselves of the health. They don't eat food. They don't sleep. So in the process, then you have untimely death. So these are all just unnecessary things. And by doing these gestures, by no means it is helping the deceased. Contrary to that, if we live happily while you are together, and then after the death of the other person, rather than just creating unnecessary untimely death on yourself, you engage yourselves more strenuously in the practice of love, affection, knowledge, wisdom, and so forth. So by engaging in these virtuous actions, for sure, because of your karmic connection with the deceased, you're going to help the deceased. This is how you can actually help the deceased. Simply by lamenting, simply by grieving enormously, not eating food, not having sound sleep, and then you having an untimely death. By no means these gestures will help the deceased. So what is being taught here is to be wise in how to be able to really help the deceased and how to make the greatest meaning out of life while you are still alive and while you are together with together with your family members. Okay, first answers. Yes, Elora.
Krishna, may I ask one question?
Yeah.
Krishna, my first question is something which you have already answered. In fact, last year Geshe has answered, but I have forgotten actually.
What is the question?
The question is that in dependent origination, what I keep forgetting is that why the things keep changing, like the
Why things keep changing?
yeah, like why the causes, like there is a particular situation, and then the causes keep changing, and things become impermanent. So why the causes keep changing? Some energy is happening. That's why the causes keep changing. No?
Gyudilo mabu kangade ko chin gyuro chene ni tagola. Nene renge kyure she rogo kashe che. Chin gyuro che de ni jegudi. Ni gyuro che ma che de na kora ranja de ma jegudi ya. Ni gyule kyo ya.
So these these respective causes, they are also the results of the early causes. So since that the early causes, they are responsible to create the early causes, constituting of the substantial causes and the corporative causes. So these causes combined together give rise to the particular cause of this event. And these early causes, they are also the results of their own respective causes. So if you go on like this, then this is how the cause effect operates. Exactly. Yeah.
My second question is, this is my personal question. I don't have too many relationships, and I don't have children, and I have very few relationships. And I have experienced a lot of fear about who will take care of me in my old age. And I would like, and this is a phenomenon which is maybe happening to other people. I would like some comment on it.
So how to avoid the fear, or what is how to avoid this problem, or what is the question?
Yeah, the question is,
How to avoid this fear,
of course, I know.
or how to look for someone to take care of you?
Of course,
What's the question?
I know that by practicing all these things, I will get. I'm talking about the practical aspect.
No, what is the question?
The question is that.
How do you solve this problem, or how can I avoid this fear? Is this question?
How to practically solve this problem? Partly from practicing Buddhism, of course, the fear aspect I can handle, but in terms of the practical, who will take care of me when I can't move, I can't sit, I don't have a nurse, I don't have too much money. I mean, I can't commit suicide. I have nobody to look after me. So, from the Buddhist perspective, even you people have a monk community to take care of you, but.
Yeah. So who's going to take care of this question?
Oh yeah.
First of all, just one thing which we need to know as a precursor to what the actual answer is that all the results, whether you are old age or you are going to be left alone and so forth, these are the results of the causes. And these causes, they are not eternal or permanent, unchanging cause. If the cause is unchanging, then the result is not going to be changed or not going to be reduced. So since the causes themselves are of the changing nature, then this is how the results they come to being. So this one, what we have to know as a precursor to what the actual answer is. So for this, no. So for this practical problem which you are pinpointing, it has two parts. One is the problem that you are left alone, no one taking care of. This one. Another part, more important, that is the feeling of the pain, the feeling of distress that you feel that there is no one taking care of me. So the practice of Dharma can actually help you cope with the second part. And the first part, the world had been existing for the last millions of the thousands of years, and until now, things are going bad, things are going good. Even the very rich people, they also have went through all these difficulties and so forth. So, but then overall speaking, when you become so old and no one to take care of, and then when you actually become crippled with no one taking care of, then somehow things will be managed. Meaning that, so look around your own place. We see that we hardly see people who are left. We hardly see people who are left unattended when you are so desperate, almost on the verge of dying. This is very less sight that we could see. So something will be taken care of. In fact, when there is when you see the prospect of these things happening, then what really bothers us is the fear. This fear. So the dharma, the practice of dharma is to encounter that fear. So when the fear is not there, then all these things can happen to everyone. It's not just to oneself. Becoming old age is not simply confined to one person. It's happening to everyone, whether rich, poor, powerful, or the weak. Everyone goes through that. So one thing, and then another thing is that while you are still healthy, make it a point that it'll be, practically speaking, it's good to have some reliable people with whom to communicate, and then when actually things happen, then this could be helpful. And this is actually what happens to everyone.
No, they sit down around me and did up the dish. They didn't look at it. They are just Rabbi Foundation is on the near chess, Kiron, Chile, campus, and Lawrence. It is why the Kirito. It's another opportunity of the television. You combat the Zunico, Sanjay Kuson to get today and have an Saturday next on the never power so. And there is a book we are done. He gave Kurachi in a day of our social data and social location to the President Washington. They should also be shared by
So one thing is, your question is very practical. It's very true. The thing is that, in fact, the Buddha considered it as so important. For this reason that the Buddha, for the monks, the Buddha made it a point that there's always someone to take care of that. If you're young, there should be elder one to take care of you. And if you're very elderly, then there should be the younger ones to take care of you, and so forth. And then if there's someone who has no one to take care of, then the Buddha even advised the monastics to, if it had been done, even to beat the incident of selling the jewelries offered to the Buddha's statues and so forth. Even if you have to sell them to help assist the sick people, you have to do that. This is the advice of the Buddha. So likewise, this is how the Buddha approached, and from this we take the message that this is a severe problem. And then while we are still healthy, we have to make it a point that, to be very practical, we have to make a point that we try to make good relationship with some people who are reliable, and then this is how we communicate. When they are sick, you go to help them, and then when you're sick, then there is a chance that others can come and help you. So this is what we do, and then particularly creating a good relationship with reliable people is very important.
Okay, more questions? Yes. The fear of death or any fear, it takes place in the state of low consciousness, while virtue is the inherent reality of higher consciousness. So my question is, whether fear can really lead us to the virtue, true virtue I mean, not the superficial one.
修了的基本上，甚至学生他的这嘛，实际上修了的基本上，在有的来你比较专业的，他就或者多看了别别，甚至是他会生气的，我弟弟这种，所以修了基本的内容的去做的呀，去做的是。
What is Surely, Jibate, surely, actually, the only thing is the Vidaka Samata, the Nidu Samata, the Nidu, but I miss it. Tavares to stay engaged in Samata and for some Scoto. On that day, sure, I call Buddhism. Chimayu made some Samata. Here, the only Chimay some which is also the Janja membership. Yatarago, Male Tara, which I give my Kakadele, Mashi to this. Yana, oh, Sankia, she says, your Shimaka. Sit date on that, and the other middle general, near mother, you do some time, I don't get sure. There's some little do the cigarette. But Mexico, you do some time, I share it. So I'm going to bed. You some day, but she be 23. Seeing the social and that children. But catch that the cash and the cruise the clear members. There is little of Chita did well. The cash and the civil letter, then to take a member sometime. Without one to shit you have in it. Can I chew me? Can I tell you on Sugar College? Can you go to Miguel Punch, Joya, which Shiva and Jibamation, that's all in Jibamation. The cash and be said. Then it's a million. She was in Australia, but they had to do it in the course of everyday Chibira. She was the Chibira, Sazochi, Jolam de Sandy.
Okay, so here it is said that reflecting on the impermanence of death, the fear of death, this is the root of taking you towards, connecting you towards the pure consciousness of the virtue. Because only when you have this awareness of the impermanence of death, the fear of death, then this will provoke you. This will invoke you to look for a greater virtue. So what I'm doing here, knocking of the dead, is so childish. It is so childish. It's simply confined to this life, not seeing the past lives, not seeing the future lives. So when you confine yourself, just thinking, engross yourself thinking of today, then you don't plan for the tomorrow and the past. So whereas if you think about the impermanence of death, then you will see that beyond this today, there's something more. And then more, it is on this basis that the reflection on impermanence will take you to reflect on the miseries of the life if you don't take seriously of your life. Then it will take you to how to cut the miseries by reflecting on the emptiness nature, how everything is dreamlike. And then it will also take you to understanding of the selflessness. And then when you think about, generally speaking, the person who simply thinks about today, that is considered to be non-virtuous or considered to be a childish person. Whereas someone who is able to think much more than today of the past and the future. The past, for example, oh, everyone. It's not just today. Today, my mother, and in the former lives, another mother, and the former life, another mother. There are countlessly many mothers. So I should be feeling so grateful to all these mothers. And then in future, if I'm being vigilant with my practice, then I can become Buddha in the future. So you can think of a much greater virtue because of the awareness that this self is not just simply confined to this life. So that happens only if you have the awareness of the impermanence of death. This fear will trigger you, will invoke you to think more of the past and the future. So that is the root of connecting you to the pure awareness of the virtue. And whereas there are instances where people find it very uneasy listening to or hearing about the impermanence of death. But in such situation, we should be very discreet in our way of discoursing. If the person is not so keen to listen to such thing and becoming so panicky, but in such situation, then you need to be a little skilled as to what extent you have to speak about that, whether you have to first of all speak about that or not speak about that, and so forth.
Nichi was a shield chara simche. One and a shield chara sim, the chief in Tamil Person. What if you don't buy it or at the sometime? A good chivati, Tara and Mongo sometime. Shield chara simple. She was one ending of the and then to the home jam model. She may change the unit to the Kabu one to another real.
And on top of that, reflection on the impermanence has a tremendous benefit. Same, you will see the death is also described as the Dharmakaya, the divine Dharmakaya, the divinity. So how that is described as the divinity of the Dharmakaya or the divine Dharmakaya is that the mind that we experience. So this mind is of two kinds, the gross and the subtle. The gross mind, conceptual mind, they're all related to the physical body, the gross physical body. So at the time of death, you are being separated from this gross physical body. As the gross physical body, you are separated from the gross physical body. You are slowly dissolving the gross mental states. As the gross mental states are dissolved, then the subtle minds get activated. And the subtlest mind can best be activated at the time of death. So although we do such practice on a daily basis while you are still alive, so these practices of visualizing the subtle mind getting activated and so forth, they're simply on the level of conceptualization or imagination. It is not on the actual reality. Whereas at the time of death, it actually happens in reality that the subtle state of the mind gets activated. So then at the time of death, if you are prudent, then we can actually see the process of how the gross minds start dissolving and how the subtle mind, how the pure mind gets activated, becoming manifest. So this is such a great opportunity if you are aware of the death. So the impermanence of death, reflecting of the impermanence of death is of such a great significance. Okay, so
you said that death is the only absolute truth. So everything we are doing is in relative terms, like with respect to other person, what other persons are doing or not doing. Actions and actions are more, relative. Vis-a-vis the other person's actions and inaction. So, what do you want to say about it?
치료에 대한 것이 아니 시바도 나중에 본인이 자주에 대해서만도 아니 공부 것이 출산에 설치 그래도 엄마들이 치료듯이 어디 되시는
뒤에는 소고요라 소고 거기다가 뒤차다니 매 나와나 뒤차고 만들어고 가면 되겠다. 치료에 가서 처음에 섬들서 치료자 나와 근데 그래 공부도 빠지네. Now I come by several months of no more than you are. There's a team with native video, which I try some day. Did you to Tombani Toyada? Did you create a Chicken the court as a chivati, the number of checking the take a disco. Chivan, the living to the assembly. One go to talk about the Chamas. Choke the one that you convert. She is country cigarette, the top chilo, the chapter, now look the chapter. Tadi te do chama de student some teachers
순부대로 그 치료의 개시 순부대로 한 미니도 보이지야다 미니보다 지금 쭉 가시면 이 지금 개충을 보시면 한 치료의 개시시
뭐래 단 그 개시시네 치료 내가 나다 만 공개를 지나 개시시 디테가 좀데 제가 한번 가서 설명해
So here, what is being said has no connotation that your relationship with your relationship with others, actions of others, while you're still alive, these are insignificant, and the death is the ultimate thing. No, this is not the connotation. The connotation is that if you are skilled in your practice, then you can, the death which is seen as so scary for the ordinary people, you as a practitioner, you can take this as the greatest of the opportunities for you to spiritually evolve. So there we see that is a time when the subtlest of the mind becomes activated. So when the subtlest of the mind becomes activated with the pure mind, so then you use that mind to be directed towards the ultimate reality of emptiness or the shunyata, and that is the greatest virtue. So this is the taking the what is considered the most scary part of, according to the ordinary people, is what you as a practitioner can take that into spiritual path. But it does not mean to say that the other actions, your relationship with other people, and so forth, is less. This is not the connotation. Okay, so there are two more. There is.
We have mind. We have experienced it countless times.
Say it again.
We have experienced this.
This subtle mind countless times.
I believe in why do we forget? What is the specific klesha or obstacle that makes us forget this? Why do we have to do this? And then we also remain again fearful as well as lazy in this life. I'm speaking about myself. And I'm sure these great masters, Aryadeva, they were addressing people who were in a way believers, who thought they were in the path. Not just monks or hermits who are strenuously practicing. Doing all those practices to get a feeling of their life in their life. So why have we forgotten? Why have we forgotten?
Why forgotten?
That
Okay.
this was,
Yeah.
요새 참이생기 저가 그 기억을 해라 하다 이 시기수 되는 이면수 뭐래서 나도 단어를 통만 하는 용대에서 용대에 그 단지 책임을 놓았어.
그래.
마찬가지로 이 가리 기대를 했어.
그래.
아니 가서 그 순주 이 그 아이들 순주 이 순수의 순서들이 나도 진행 저 지고만 그만 순수 같습니다. 그만 되게 섹션 나가 하는 지 제일 맞아요.
아,
가마도 치우치면 순용한데요.
그래.
제일 먼저
그래. 그래. 나도 뒤에 가서 그래. 나도 봐도 뭐보다 용대로. 그냥 가시 땡게 용이라. 저 엄마 땡게 용이라. 나
섹션
세션 쓰거라. 지금 세션데 como todo lembra de o que eu tenho agora. Uma casa de um vestido para eu tenho agora. Mas se dá mesmo do que na hora de se me ouvir até. Tento mais lá. Se sempre cadê o sobre cada longa de todo tem não chega a baixo com a suta que o resto é. Que não dá drama de se de na hora dos canga mesmo de sempre se se batango. Então me ia para lá se na betonção de cima do chá mesmo. Não dá drama de se mesmo. Eu dele cheio de sempre agora. Dele tem até coia namdo ramida sobore lodge den namdo ramida shaja sheba da chiwan bodan try to keep to the teacher agora. This was due to the chiwe negative we are is agora. Ina ko na trend to mara. Para se ti negative or na to shenda fasha sen dele ya chunju kan karse. Hame ko de ke se lo me tool ka ju ke. Sen din ne lo kan de ho. Ya ko to mo thum le ne na mo change to be agora.
Okay. Say, while, as you said, that this subtle clear mind is what we experience so many times since eternity, since beginningless until now. But then why we don't remember that is very much like, say, you were born in this life, and then as you were age 1, 2, 3, 4, instantly you had a memory of who you were. When you were age 1, oh, I need this, I need that, you cry and so forth. And then as you become older, you don't tend to remember anything, what happened to you when you were 1 year old, 3 years old, 4 years old, and so forth. So the thing is that our mind, though particularly those who are not trained, our mind does not have the capacity, to retain the memory. But then only when you're trained, then we gain this the power to retain the memory, and we can also remember the subtle events, activation of the clear-light mind, and so forth. Same at the time of death, when the clear-light mind is experienced, your mind is becoming disconnected from the gross physical body. As your mind gets disconnected from the physical body, then all the gross perceptions cease. All the gross perceptions cease. That at that point, the subtlest experience is described as though like you are in the middle of a sky or a space, which is like the sky at the time of the autumn clear sky, which is devoid of any flaws, and which is very much like the time of the dawn at the time, the dawn of the autumn sky. So this is the experience which we all go through at the time of death. Every time we have death, this is what we experience. But then because that this gets activated not because of your voluntary practice, but because of the dissolution, or you getting disconnected from this physical body, from this disconnected from the gross physical body. So it simply gets manifested, and then the moment you go to connect to the next life, again the gross body comes into being, and then the mind becomes gross, and then you don't remember the past experience. So this is what is happening. So which means that we are not trained to gain that power to retain the memory of those subtle experiences. With training, then we can gain power to retain the experiences of the subtle events, particularly at the time of the death of the clear mind. Okay, yes, Badriji?
Could Geshe give some practical advice? My question actually has two parts. One is, why do we recognize unpleasant experiences as suffering? We do not recognize pleasant experiences also as suffering. This is what mentioned yesterday. How does one get used to the recognition of pleasant experiences as suffering? Number one. Number two, if one continuously meditates on that, does one prevent one from enjoying life, or does one become numb or insensitive?
Takuti soa dewa di merando dewa sensiora. Tungi o tungi sedeko, ki tungi reesi, tungi sungilane soa dewa tungi re randa siyomara. Gyuru ya tungi siyora. Ti gyuru sone ko dawa degi mara, dawa degi ne digite che gyuru ni tungi modo shakyora. Gyuru ya tungi siyora. O ti soa dewa degi, une chene soa dewa degi manga chugi siyora. Tawari chone kichi ye maye chirizane sen maga chuje namdo da chi nyumu da ma chi bisarwa kindi so taming kora de ne yasi kora ne jo tu tingsi komdisa yayan judisa ko so taming yasi taming je de se ko chita su te ne ga punjuru che chi ya chi ya to chi chi jure de ne te so mo le te wa de ti sarwa ne ga ra chi chi ya re chu so mo de ya chu so ni che de ya tu mi ji ho de kora to jure ne ye shara Ahora conservan a esa. Tumiendo tu memoria esas. Ahora ne te yo de tanto nashi deve ne ko. Ye je ko. Pero tu me re ko. Yo da ga te de. Sa so sembi lo me su de jab jab ta ya wo chung so sam ka sha ro ma lo. Mo ne ko ka wa su ke ne. Tu me ne shi ne. Yo de de su ra de wo su wa. O ti che ko shi do.
So think of the pleasant things as misery, of the nature of misery. In fact, what we consider, what we see as misery, the obvious miseries, no doubt they are miseries. Then what is considered as the contaminated happiness, contaminated pleasant feelings. These are referred to as the suffering of change. Suffering of change doesn't mean that they are literally suffering. They are happiness, but this happiness is so contaminated that it can easily change into miseries. Say of the suffering, happiness, and the neutrality of these three experiences, the feeling of neutrality, that seems to be more stable. So amongst the practitioners, they try to experience the neutral feeling. When you experience the neutral feeling, then there's no ups and downs happening. When you experience the happiness, then it can fall. The moment you fall, this is misery. So that way we see that happiness, pleasant, what we consider as happiness, the contaminated happiness, they are prone to giving rise to you so much of mental disturbance, afflictions, and so forth. Because of this contaminated happiness, we can easily fall prey to attachment, anger, and so forth. And they so obviously bring about disturbance to our mind. So these are described as the one which is prone to changing into misery, and it also gives rise to so much of the resultant miseries in the form of the mental disturbance, attachment, aversion, and so forth. Okay, Jan, do you have a question? Okay, so one last question over there. So it's already 8:10.
My question may seem a little bit irrational or funny, even when I would like to share. After practicing a meditation today, I felt, I felt the way of looking at the things, feeling emotions have changed a bit. For example, I would say earlier when I was not that much, when I was not very much familiar with the teachings, I would say I'm angry. And later on, after practicing a day, going to retreat, I felt that my statement has changed. I said, instead of saying I'm angry, I say, I feel the anger. My question is, what I want to say is, the observer of the anger has increased. The degree has increased. The observing capability has increased. And in some supreme tantras, we say, in last days, no good, no bad. We say even no liking, disliking, no gathering, no partying. Even if you go a little bit further, we even say there's no ignorance, not even wisdom at last in some supreme tantras. Now my question is, how to genuinely or how to prolong or how to invite this negation of the observer of the thing which is being observed? So my question is.
아니, 내가 초진 제외는 아니 이 나하고도 대신 가마가 네 껍질 체인지 아니 빠져다 아무것도 싫어해 아무리요 말했어요. 상관가 빠져다 상관가 아니 이 하나의 수지들이 그런 모티브를 얘기를 코너기도 그랬네. 따오고지 되는 거 같아. 그런 아니면 서로 통일해 빠져야 가르친다.
우리 다들의 가수래. 공부다 돼도 따버리 상탄데. 아무도 나중에 그냥 그랬다면 거기서는 연대에 소리 챘는데 거기에 상담시켜라. 다시 막 그 삼비안에 하는 건데 에코 요리에 따로 있는 거 같나 또 요리에 나 샤샤는 또 거기 시간 잡게 제가 잡게 이게 시에다 되는 시에다 양양 상담을 다시 해야 돼 되게 뭔가 안 나시고 지금 다시 해야 돼 그렇죠 자 한번 봐봐 보세요 다시 해야 이게 이제 다 되게 이게 한번 좀 되게 나오는 거
So, as for the anger, your approach is so good. So only if and only if one engages in this attempt to counteract anger, then we can expect anger to subside. Otherwise, if we never attempt, anger will never diminish, however old we become. So, by reflecting on the demerits of anger, initially the anger comes to be as well like it is a great supporter. It defends you. In defense, as a strength, it comes to you. And then thinking more rationally on the demerits of anger, and then we see that it is totally flawed. That it being a defense measure for you is totally flawed. We see that more the anger diminishes, more happy you are. So this is a very good attempt. And likewise, we have to apply the same remedial practices with the other emotions such as attachment and so forth. And then and the fact that this anger, like any other afflictive emotions, this anger is not the intrinsic nature of the mind. It is simply the adventitious or the temporary nature of the mind. It can be adventitious, meaning that it is not intrinsic and it can be separated from the true nature of the mind. And then with regard to the observer and observed, and then from the point of view of the high level tantric practice, then there's a negation of the viewer, the observer, the good, bad, wisdom, all these things. In actuality, none of these things can be negated. Whatever tradition that you're following, they are there, but we need to contextualize the situation. So the negation is happening not in the conventional sense. Negation is happening only on the ultimate sense. In the ultimate sense, observer, observed, and then good or bad, the wisdom, ignorance, all these things simply dissolve in the ultimate sense. So we need to know in what context that tantra or that twin is explaining about this negation. Okay, now I think. So here, this can be more precisely be explained in relation to what is known as the meditative equipoise of the non-dual experience of emptiness. Meditative equipoise experience of the non-dual emptiness. With that respect, in relation to, with that as the frame of reference, with that wisdom, non-dual experience of emptiness as the reference, we see that the duality dissolves. The duality of the observer, observed, the good or bad, and all these dissolve in that experience. So this is the context. And there is one written question. I would say that this question is very good, and we will do this question tomorrow. This is more in relation to the tomorrow's topic. Is emptiness permanent? If yes, how? Since emptiness also means dependent origination, why in actuality dependence in a way is like not independent, like something depending on phenomena, and all composite phenomena are impermanent.
attention state is about never to remain much. Tibet to remain much controversy. And
Geshe Yeshe Thabkhe, then young company, young Thabkhe, Geshe Yeshe and in June, company watch for the chair, and company Thabkhe is Geshe.
Okay, so this question is a good question. We will do this question tomorrow. Okay, so we will do the end declaration prayer. And should you have more questions, please welcome tomorrow. Okay, page 65. Okay, all the merits which we generate today from receiving the teachings from our venerable teacher, Geshe Yeshe Thabkhe, may the merits proliferate in all 10 directions and be shared with all the dear mothers and sentient beings. So the darkness of self-centered attitude, the darkness of self-grasping ignorance, these were eliminated for good by the wisdom of emptiness, by the knowledge of the impermanence, by the knowledge of the emptiness, and by the knowledge of the unconditional love towards others. And may His Holiness the Dalai Lama, the true source of joy and happiness on earth today, live long, and that His wishes be fulfilled spontaneously. May the teaching on bodhicitta flourish in all 10 directions. May the teaching on impermanence and emptiness flourish in all 10 directions in the minds of all sentient beings. With that in mind, let's turn to page 65. From my two collections, vast space that I have amassed from working with effort at this practice for a great length of time, may I become the chief leading Buddha for all those whose minds are blinded by ignorance. Even if I do not reach this state, may I be held in the loving compassion for all lives unusually. May I find the best of the complete created parts of the teachings, and may I please all the Buddhas by my practice. Those skillful beings drawn by the strong force of compassion, may I clear the darkness from the minds of all beings with the points of the path as I discern them. May I hold Buddha's teachings for a very long time, with my heart going out with great compassion. In whatever direction the most precious teachings have not yet spread, or once spread or declined, may I be this treasure of happiness and aid. May the mind of those who wish for liberation be granted conscious peace, and the Buddha's teaching be nourished for a long time. By even this great path to enlightenment completed, due to the wondrous virtues covered with the Buddha's and their children. We eliminate the adversity and create conducive conditions for practicing excellent paths, never be separated with any of the lives from the purest path raised by the Buddhas. Whenever someone makes effort to act in accordance with the tenfold mind and virtuous practices, may they always be assisted by the mighty ones in the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful Aryadeva attends in Jaso, please remain until samsara ends. Due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may the quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha, and lead all beings without exception into the enlightened state. Joy, joy, Sam, joy, boy, joy, May the supreme riches that has not erased and arise and grow, and may their riches not erase and not diminish, but increase forevermore. I dedicate the merits that scattered towards the realization of these and their prayers of all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 3 times, and to the upholding of the Dharma of the teaching and realization. May all lives through the force of merit, never separate from the 4 pillars of the Mahayana, be able to accomplish all the stages of the path, renunciation, bodhicitta, perfect view, and the 2 stages. With a wish to free all beings, I shall always look for refuge to the Buddha, Lama, and Sangha, until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in Buddha's presence, I generate the mind of full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. I go for refuge to the triple gem, I confess the negativities individually, I rejoice in the virtues of all the beings, I hold the precious Buddha of my heart. As long as space remains, as long as sentient beings remain, until then man should remain in this pleasant beautiful world. The path of union of emptiness and compassion
is loosely explained by the pretender of the Lama by the beings of the stone. When the lotus hold a tendon gather, we supplicate that your wishes are fulfilled spontaneously. May the operations of evil thoughts and deeds, of negative forces, of humans and non-humans, who have managed perverted prayers against the teachings of the Buddhas, be told in language through the power of the truth of the three jewels. Throughout my future lifetimes, may I always be guided by an usually and be able to uphold the Dharma example and the teaching of the teachings of the even as I said, the meditation session tomorrow for now tomorrow the meditation is going to be happening from 10 to 11, and the meditation is tomorrow is a meditation on the shamatha, focus on the mind, which is also referred to as the blend of the Mahamudra practice, Mahamudra and the Dzogchen practice. So this is what we're going to do tomorrow. It is just for as an introduction. For those people who are really serious with this meditation, you must have to seek proper guidance rather than just relying on that one-day session. This will not help. It is simply an intro for you. Okay, and then for information, the actual teaching starts at 11 to 12:30. Then lunch break. Lunch will be served to all, and then 1:30 to 3 again teaching, and then 3 to 4:30 question answer. There's more continuation. Then tea break, and then 4 to 5 is a meditation on emptiness, meditation on shunyata, emptiness. That is between 4 and 5. So those of you who are interested in meditation, make a point that you will be there at 10 in the morning. Okay, the venue is at IIC Multipurpose Hall. IIC, which is just about like 2 minutes walking distance from here. IIC Multipurpose Hall. Okay, good night to all of you.
Thank you very much.